Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is none other than the Jotun-Toten vault-dwelling Mayor of the Deepstone Crypt, my favorite Destiny co-host on the Citadel, Mr. Josh Finney.
Corey, it has been a week. It has been a Destiny week.
It's been a week.
Not even just busy, personally. I mean, it has been busy personally, but nothing but good things over here. Good vibes.
So much Destiny, man.
Every time that Bungie dropped something this week, I was in the middle of doing something else, like family related or like work prospects, and I'm like, oh my god, or I'm driving and I'm getting today I'm driving, I'm getting messages about the interactive trailer that came out. Like, guys, I have to be somewhere. Please stop. Oh my god, who bought who? That was the first question I had.
Right.
I was actually afraid that somebody else had been bought, and no, it was just people sharing a video with me, thank god. And then on the way back from said lunch meeting, I had our friend Johnny blowing up my phone with all the details from the TWAB, because I can't be trusted to read it on my own when I have a free minute, apparently. Man, it's been a crazy week, though. We had, on Monday, we found out about that apparently Google and Bungie had been in talks about sharing technology, and that may still be going ahead for cloud computing.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we got a ViDoc at 9 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah, what a time.
We also found out, on Monday night, that apparently a bridge has been under construction in the astral alignment activity for 6 months, and not a single person noticed it. Even the sandbox leads were like, thank God you guys finally saw this. We got a Void 3.0 blog post yesterday with videos detailing some of the new abilities. Today we got the TWAB, we got an interactive trailer. I'm almost afraid of what Friday is going to bring at this point, because it better not be anything big. We cannot do 2 episodes this week.
No.
But I'm really glad that we forced in the one in the middle of me potentially getting a power outage last week.
Right.
Because I may not have survived trying to do last week's TWAB with all of this week's news.
I'm just saying that this episode would have been 4 hours long.
This would have been the longest episode on record. I would have tagged somebody in. As
much as I love the show, 4 hours is a long podcast for Destiny, especially, it's just God.
For anything. It's long. I'm sorry. I love you, Giant Bomb, but there's a reason I don't listen to your content. I can't do 4-hour pods.
Oh, I don't mind listening to them. Just halfway through a 4-hour podcast is my throat hurts.
Yeah. I'm glad that I sit right off my kitchen. Turn my light on up there so I can actually see. Oh, Jesus, that's really bright.
Josh is adjusting on the fly.
Well, adjusting on the fly. I turned it off, and then I looked at my preview screen, and I was really dark. Now I feel like I'm really bright, which is weird. Corey is orange on my screen.
I mean, that just might be my lighting, though, too.
That is your light. Okay, there we go. That fixed. All right. Corey, let's go ahead and jump into it. We've got a lot of ground to cover tonight. You've got other things you have to do tonight. I have other things I have to do tonight.
Yes. Yeah, so because for those of you that don't know,
yep.
I mean, if you're not a Nintendo fan, Nintendo Direct recorded yesterday, and for my other podcast stuff, I have to record a Direct recap. So, yeah, big things. Lots of things to do tonight, Josh. Let's do some Destiny.
All of the things. Let's do some Destiny, though. We're going to kind of go in sequential order. The Bungie and Google deal, if you guys are curious about that, because we don't know if that's still going to come to fruition, it does kind of go off a theory that we've had for a while that Sony was going to partner with Google for the Stadia tech, but it seems like Bungie was kind of moving in to license that patent.
Mm-hmm.
Not outright buy it, but license it. Could this be part of what they were talking about? Oh, Destiny coming to future platforms. It certainly seems like that's going to help with cloud computing. We know they used Stadia a lot during the pandemic to do work-from-home test builds. So it's probably just an evolution of that. If you're curious, though, I encourage you, go look it up, read it yourself. If we had more time tonight, we would dedicate some time to this, but I really want to talk about the big three that we have. I'm cutting Lore Corner out this week even, because we have so much to get through.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Corey, that ViDoc.
Yeah.
Is there anything better than the news? There will be a new ViDoc at 10 a.m. Eastern time, when you're on your coffee break at work.
Right. I think I was in a meeting, I think, when that happened. in a meeting, and I was like, oh man, can we just check this out instead? Can we just watch that?
It's always fun whenever those happen so early in the morning, because I'm in Central Time Zone, so mine happen about 9 o'clock in the morning. Typically, when I'm sitting down to do stuff in the morning, if I need to do stuff around the house, or if I'm out and about, and then our friend Johnny, poor Johnny, lives out on the West Coast, so 7 a.m. his time, he's up and his fingers are ready to go. He's ready to sit there and blow my phone up. I think both of us were just reacting in real time to each other, just freaking out. My group texts were blowing up. My day one raid group was all excited. Of course, we all talked about it that afternoon. But there's not a lot of new info we really gleaned from this. Let's be totally honest. We saw a fair amount of in-game cinematics. And the cinematics do look really good. Specifically, Ikora's character model looks amazing. On Mars when you go to the Enclave. So and that's presumably one of the very first ones.
This is a new model, correct? Am I for Ikora? Like it feels like they really went in and did a lot of work to the character model.
I think they did. Or is this just part of this? The most we've.
Go ahead. Sorry.
This may be part of the in-engine upgrades.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's what I was kind of thinking. It just looked like the character model was a little bit more refined, a little bit more crisp. Mm-hmm. I can say that about all the characters, but there was specifically the ones that are in the Witch Queen versus the ones that we saw in the season looked a little bit crisper. Mm-hmm. It looks cool. We got a sneak peek at the map on Mars that the confirmation that the throne world is hanging out above Mars. This is not Destiny 1 Mars, though. It's really important to note that. This is a social space on Mars. It's presumably where you will load into... I suspect there will be a load-in point on the Throne World, too. They had to have learned their lesson from Europa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
didn't they say there's 3? Did they say there was 3?
Possibly.
I swear I read that somewhere.
My head. That would make sense, though. They're expecting it to be... It's estimated to be about the size of the Dreaming City. From what we gleaned from there were a lot of outlets that got preview builds. This is the first time I think they've done a massive preview build for actual game outlets since Forsaken. I don't think they did it for Shadowkeep, and I definitely don't think they did it for Beyond Light. We know they brought a lot of community folks up there. Datto, Rick Kakis, they were part of it. They were definitely a part of this. They put out videos this week. I think Fallout Place was part of it as well. DCP, obviously. So there's a lot of great content out there kind of breaking down their experience with that and getting to try weapon crafting. Everyone seems really high on this right now. And with good reason. We see a little bit of this in action. And in this social space on Mars, that's the Enclave. That's where you're going to do your weapon crafting. So I don't like that we now have a third place we have to go to do stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that maybe it won't happen in the Witch Queen, or it won't happen initially at least. But I feel like if the Helm does become our permanent tower next year, that they will have to make a copy of the relic and take it to the Helm, because I don't really want to have to go in a rotation of 3 different places. It's already bad enough I can't pick up seasonal stuff or umbrals in the tower or pick up my vendor stuff in the Helm on a bounty board. That's already bad enough. The fact that I can't do any of this, it's really frustrating. It makes me kind of convoluted.
Yeah. I understand the tower and all these social spaces and they're all cool and stuff, but I wish they would just give me a menu tab that said, okay, here's your bounty board. Here's all the bounties. And you could just pick them up in orbit. Cause I'm kind of tired of flying back everywhere, just let me pick up stuff and go,
That's about how I feel right now. But I'm not going to sit here and complain too much. We know we're getting vendor refreshes this year. Building them out a little bit more, to be more in line with Saint. Banshee is first on that list, and I would assume each of the next 3 seasons will see Zavala, Shaxx, and Drifter get that treatment as well.
Yeah.
It's just you can't go back. That can of worms is open. You can't go. Saladin's getting it in season 17. So I think that's got to be in the pipeline for all of them, and maybe even for Christmas Grandma.
Right.
But further on, what we see in there, we got the name of the season, and this is the first time they've given us the season name before the season in 5 or 6 of them, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely. I think. What was the season before Arrivals? I think was the last time we.
Season of the Worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. How can you forget that?
Yeah, how can you forget that riveting time in Destiny 2 with a public event main thing for the season? I would say that. So first off, we know that this is Season of the Risen, which I'll leave you guys to speculate on what that means. We do know that it ties in directly with the events of the Witch Queen, which is the first time they've done this with one of the seasons. Hunt was largely separate from Beyond Light. It very much was a continuation of Arrivals. Like, I think you can consider the prologue, the path to the Witch Queen, really starting with Arrivals. Arrivals did lead into the events of Beyond Light, but more so, it really was the beginning of Savathun's story.
Yeah,
if you watch today's interactive trailer, they really drive that home.
Yeah, it almost feels like they had to somehow introduce the darkness while ramping up Savathun's story, so they just had two coinciding stories run together, right? And I mean,
which was fine. I think it still worked. Like Hunt, despite whatever you may think about Wrathborn Hunts, I think the story was effective. It served to introduce us to Crow, which we really needed.
Yeah,
Crow's connection to the Traveler, and really set us on this path of getting him and Foe-Cyrus the Tower. And of course that sparked the events of Chosen and Splicer, and now where we are with Lost.
Right.
If you watch the ViDoc, there's very clearly some imagery that is from the Exorcism mission that we have not gotten to play yet. You can see the Savathun's crystal being engulfed in light.
Yep.
Saint and the Guardian both covering their faces.
Yeah. By the way, that big shot in the trailer of just everybody standing there and Zavala's like addressing them. I know it's not everybody, but like, God, what a shot. It's very
much like, it's like, I liken this to a friend of ours. I says that he goes, I think it was Nerd Generalist goes, is this our assembling the Avengers moment? I says, I don't know about that. I liken this feels like everybody in Zavala's office, because that is a cutscene from the season.
Yeah.
Because you can very specifically see where Zavala's head is in one of the scenes is the shot that we saw on the Schwab a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That is from Season of the Risen. I liken this to the 2012 first Avengers movie when they all team up to fight Loki. Maybe the Age of Ultron lineup. I think Lightfall is our Infinity War moment with the final shape being Endgame.
Yep.
Whoever's left picks up arms in Endgame.
Yep.
I think this also, like, we were kind of doing by order of deduction. Who isn't in that shot to figure out what was going on with spoiler alert?
Yeah.
And thank God we see Crow in a future shot.
I mean,
notably standing in Cade Six's old spot in the hangar.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you also look closely, he's flipping the hunter knife like Petra flips hers.
Yep.
And this could age very poorly in a matter of like 3 or 4 days. Is Petra possibly the spoiler alert? Is she possibly the subject of that? It's not Queen Mara. Queen Mara seems like she's going to have a decent amount to do with this story from the marketing. Now, whether she dies during that is another question entirely. But I think if you're going to axe anybody off in the story, the logical choice is the time is up for Eris, I feel.
Yeah, but isn't she in that shot?
She is in that shot. That doesn't mean that she won't be at risk later on, though.
I pulled up the picture. So it's you, Crow, Shax, Anna, Saint, God, Saladin. Why can't I? And Eris are the people in the shot.
Ikora is also in it.
Oh, she's not in the one that I have.
Ikora is, so in one of the images, it shows it's when the Guardian is walking out of the room. She's walking with the Guardian.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I knew she was in, like, she's obviously like a big part of it, but
I don't think you can pull a bait and switch with Osiris, like promising us he's going to come back all season and then just kill him off. That would be really unceremonial. I hate to say it, but I'm like inching more towards my theory of it maybe being Glint. Maybe Crow's ghost is killed.
Yeah, you really think they would do that?
Savathun?
You really think that?
I do. This is Bungie, and I mean, what better way to make Uldren question his loyalty to the Vanguard than to kill off his ghost?
Or do they steal Glint to harvest the light?
So that's been my other theory for a little while. Is that how it happens? Like, at the core of everything is, what do they mean when they say survive the truth? And I want to talk. I know that's not something specifically addressed in the ViDoc, but with us being 10 days out, we're kind of piecing together things. The realistic thing, I think, if you haven't come to this conclusion, is I think one of the questions we have to ask is, did Savathun actually steal the light, or is that just our interpretation of it, and we can't accept that maybe the Traveler resurrects her if Mara tries something?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the Traveler blesses her with the light. Is that entirely possible? Because, I mean, Gaul took the light. He was not given the light by the Traveler. We were told in the ViDoc
like so
repeatedly that the lines of light and dark are gone. Mm-hmm. That, what is light, what is darkness, what is good, what is evil at this point. Would that would be something that would rock the Guardians to their very core, if the Traveler wasn't actually this incredible entity that blessed them, but rather, well, they happen to be here, so here you go.
Yeah.
Especially considering we know that humans, Awoken, and Exos have all been rezzed as Guardians. Why can't a Hive God? If the Traveler sees that as its best defense against the Black Fleet, here you go, winner take all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a question that we're gonna have to grapple with during this campaign. Speaking of the campaign, though, I mean, them talking about the Legendary campaign sounded really cool. We're going to get into a little bit more of that with the Schwab. We've got some comments from the game team that they were putting out today.
Yeah, all the stuff that they, like, if you complete it, all the stuff that you get for completing it.
Yeah, it just, they're keeping a lot of the cards close to their chest. It does look like weapons will be restricted to the new Throne World suite, mm-hmm. and probably the seasonal suite initially. Mm-hmm. With things added over, I wouldn't be surprised to see things added over time. I think the Foundry weapons will also be a part of this. Maybe it wasn't in the preview shots because they went so quickly.
Yeah.
On the weapon crafting, but just everything about this feels really good. Everybody's really excited for this release, and I love that they gave the narrative team a lot of time to shine here in these discussions. But also, it's not a ViDoc without Dave Samuel coming in and doing his sound effects impressions. It wouldn't be a Bungie stream without that. And it's really cool that, all these years later, nothing gets me more excited for a release from Bungie than a ViDoc.
Yeah. I mean,
it really feels like
they're so good at making a cinematic presentation out of gameplay, right? I mean, we've talked about that forever, but
yeah, I mean, I think it keeps bearing repeating, but I remember saying this, God, 16 months ago, before Beyond Light came out, mm-hmm. back in the earlier days of Tower Casuals, around like episode 20,
the before
where
times.
I was like, the aura around Beyond Light felt different.
Yeah.
And I think there was an excitement, partially because it was coming to Game Pass. It was going to be the most accessible for anybody. Anybody could play the full story at that point.
Uh-huh.
This genuinely feels
not
different.
The Red War, though.
The Red. No, you had to play it before Beyond Light came out. You had to go download the free-to-play game. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, the new Light
This
quest.
Genuinely feels different, though. This feels like something like they want to make it feel like it's a standalone release. Mark Noseworthy made this comparison today on Twitter, that if it was possible for expansion packs to get sequels, this would be the Taken King Part 2. And that may have done more to send my hype skyrocketing than any piece of marketing they've done so far.
Yep.
Corey and I have talked at length. We really think that like the Taken King and Forsaken are like the 1A, 1B of Destiny releases.
Yeah.
I think there's a distinct possibility that the Witch Queen takes number 1.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I don't know how anybody could think like at least the Taken King is not the best expansion they've done, and then Forsaken is like a real close beat, like you said, 1A, 1B. It's like
I think they're honestly interchangeable for me. I think they delivered 2 best raids in the series history, the 2 most compelling narratives, the narratives that had the most at stake. Mm-hmm. And it's not a coincidence that both really involve Marasov and ultimately a Hive God.
Yeah.
So Hive seem to be like the golden standard for Destiny expansions. except for Shadowkeep. We don't talk about Shadowkeep here.
Shadowkeep
Corey, is there
was
anything else? I guess we'll expand just a tiny bit more on the ViDoc.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit more of the exotic weapons in action. The worm grenade launcher looks absolutely nutty. The Cabal missile launcher.
Yeah, the one that
incredible.
launches like 20 missiles at a time or whatever. It's like
I can't wait to see how irreparably broken that exotic ends up being on day one.
Dude, it's
I can't wait
comically...
for them to come out and say it's nerfed for... I can't wait for them to say that it's nerfed for the raid. I really hope it's broken so I can just equip it and run through the legendary campaign with it on.
Oh my gosh, it's like that's gonna be... It's gonna be like what were the boots that they're like, no, you can't use these for the raid. You can't use these for in-game activities.
Star Eater Strides, because I'm still really upset about it. They never bothered to fix them either.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I was like dreading, because they hadn't shown us one of the Hunter exotics yet. Even after the ViDoc, they didn't show us the next Hunter exotic. They didn't show us any of the Void 3.0 stuff for Hunters during it. And I was like, oh god, I'm really scared here. Yesterday and today, stoked those fears, kind of got rid of those fears. Not stoked, but reassured me that Hunters are not being left out in the cold, metaphorically or literally. Just everything about this looks so good. There's 6 pieces of exotic armor for you to find. There's 8 exotic weapons.
There's so many weapons in this expansion, man. There's so many.
They're saying that they estimated in the ViDoc that there's around 40 to 50 weapons, like new weapons, to get.
Yeah.
Across every activity in the Witch Queen. I don't think that includes the seasonal weapons either. It's just like what they're shipping with the Witch Queen. If it does include the season, cool. Then there's like 6 to 8 of your weapons right there. But this is what we wanted from these expansions. This is what we want on annual releases. Now if we can just get into a regular cadence of PvP and Gambit maps, I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to cover from the ViDoc before we move into the combination of the TWAB and the Void 3.0 breakdown?
No, because we're gonna cover it during the TWAB. I thought, man, I really enjoyed watching it. I watched it twice. I think it was the first time I watched a ViDoc. Had time to watch a ViDoc twice in a long time, and it was. I'm just like, I'm ready to go.
I've probably watched it 3 or 4 times myself.
Yeah.
I'm
ready to go, man.
I'm ready. 10 days, man. 10 days. There was an interview that Joe Blackburn did with Polygon. I want to kind of do this as an aside. I wasn't really going to bring this up, but it does regard weapon crafting and just some common questions people were going to have about weapon crafting, and he kind of got out ahead of it. I wish they would have detailed a little bit of this in the ViDoc or in some TWABs or some sort of official marketing material. Mm-hmm. But right now, there's no weekly limits on the amount of weapons you can craft. The goal is to keep the old viable and not immediately trash them. You'll want to hold on to your favorite weapons, and you're free to do so as you wish. Seasonal artifact mods will interact with origin perks. The ritual weapon will not be craftable. It is a permanently fixed roll. That is, of course, the shotgun this season. Random drops have the potential to hold exclusive perk options, incentivizing you to get out there and get a drop instead of just crafting, which is great. I think it keeps the pursuit alive for people, right? That was my biggest question is that going to be something that, I can just craft my god roll? Well, maybe you can't. Maybe your god roll has to be an RNG. You can get really close with crafting, but you can't get that last perk or something. That seems like a Bungie thing to really keep you in that gameplay loop for the hardest of the hardcore. And then there will be an origin perk for the seasonal weapons this season called Land Tank. Grants damage resistance for multiple kills. So Land Tank, it's kind of fitting. It's a Cabal season. The tagline has been, Keitel has sought answers this season. She will get them. Yeah. Leading to speculation is the return of Callus. What is that javelin-looking thing that we're wielding in the art? And that Zavala's calling upon Keitel. I really should have covered this during the ViDoc, but Keitel's alliance with Zavala's finally calling on it. His emissaries are there with us in the tower. Saladin and Crow meet with Zavala and us in the tower hangar. And it's just like, yeah, they're going to use the light suppression technology that was being developed during Season of the Worthy and during Season of the Chosen and get ready to deploy it. Like, it's continuing these storylines. And I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like, is it safe to assume that the spring is always going to be Cabal themed? Because this is three springs in a row that this has happened.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the way the story is falling, and like they really want to capitalize.
I think so too. I just think it's extremely coincidental. It's really funny that it keeps happening this way.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll find out if Lightfall launches with a Cabal season next year or a Cabal raid or something.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
But let's go ahead. Let's jump into this TWAB.
It's
not a monster one. The TWAB. It's not a monster TWAB, but we are going to deviate partway through to have a discussion about Void 3.0 when we get to that point of the TWAB. So again, of course, we kick off with the ViDoc with the interactive trailer. Both of those super, super cool. Especially, I love the interactive trailer. It's got lore tidbits all through there that kind of, remind you of the main story beats and how Savathun's really been a pain in the ass since Oryx came to the Soul System.
Yeah.
After he died, she started making her moves. There was the Shrieker with Savathun's song, which may actually have some relevance. It makes me a little upset that it's not in the game anymore. Regarding the Void Light crystals, they were seeing if they could harvest the light from there to use themselves, and that was before Savathun was even here herself. The Shrieker was summoning her, basically. It kind of recaps the events of Shadowkeep, of Interference, and of course of this whole year. That's just, it's crazy. It's very well done storytelling. I think there was a purpose to everything. If you never knew what the purpose to Shadowkeep was, this tells you if you haven't picked up on the clues yet. And I know that story in particular is a little bit hard to follow at times. It's not just Eris and the Pyramid. It is Savathun controlling everything from behind the scenes, wanting us to wipe out, and we do wipe out the remainder of Oryx's bloodline. So it's basically just her. She is like the only hive left. That's her goal. All about that Void 3.0. Here we go.
By the way, when we did Void 3.0 the first time when they first announced it, those are our highest viewed breakout videos on YouTube.
It's wild. That's wild.
One of them has I think the Hunter one has over 3,000 views.
Jesus. I don't understand how. There are people who have explained this significantly better than me. But I'm going to do my best here. Again, I would encourage you, as we always do whenever we do one of these breakdowns, if you're listening, if you have questions, you're not really following what we're saying, please pull up the Bungie dev post that came out on the 9th of February. Follow along with us as we go through some of this and attempt to explain it. Let's see here. Because we're going to go through this 2 more times this year with both Solar and Arc. So this will give us some practice. We're going to skip a lot of the paragraphs at the beginning. It's kind of like the what they're thinking behind all of it is. We're going to go over the terminology, though, that's used. Similar to Stasis, how Stasis had its own type of terminology. They've developed that for Void, Arc, and Solar as well. So Void, suppress. You may have heard me and John talk about suppression before, specifically with the oppressive darkness grenades that we like so much, that give us like plus 20% to plus 20% debuff to every enemy that it touches. So suppress. The target is taken out of any active ability when suppressed. While suppressed, the target cannot activate abilities or movement modes. Combatants are disoriented. We have seen that will take these Hive Guardians out of their supers. Suppression is going to be so important. Hunters, get your smoke bombs ready, basically.
You think it's going to be a mod on the artifact at some point?
What?
Like a super suppression?
No, because it's baked into the class, and so we already know that works.
You're right.
So suppression, how it works now, it will pull Guardians out of their supers in PvP. This will pull Hive Guardians out of theirs. Now, I do think that there will be a fair amount of Void mods to work with, because they're really going to push Void 3.0 this season. And that's totally cool with me. I welcome that. Experimentation is always the best, especially with a new expansion and a new raid coming. And now everyone can suppress. Weaken. The target takes increased damage, has slowed movement, and is disoriented. Volatile. The target will explode in a void detonation upon taking additional damage. If the target dies before Volatile has taken enough damage to detonate, the detonation happens anyways. So basically, they'll always blow up. Invisibility. Player vanishes from sight and does not appear on radar. Overshield. Grants a protective barrier that immediately stacks on top of existing health, shields, and intercepts incoming damage. Overshield reduces the damage taken from PvE combatants. And Devour. The player is immediately restored to full health upon activating Devour from any source and is granted grenade energy. When the player kills any kill with Devour active, they are restored to full health, granted grenade energy, and their Devour buff timer is extended. Devour is something that is pretty much exclusive to Warlocks at this point, by the way. That's the space magic we're talking about, and Void is, of course, the most space magic-y class of all.
Ooh.
Ooh! Harry Potter!
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Zavala. Titans. Speaking of Zavala, Titans. We're going to start with Titans.
10 points for Gryffindor.
10 points for Ravenclaw. Previously, the two supers, Ward of Dawn and Sentinel Shield, were tied to one another from a control standpoint, so the Titans had to use a similar input and sit through a chunk of the Sentinel Shield activation animation before Ward Bubble was created. That is gone, ladies and gentlemen. It is gone.
Woo.
The activation is near instantaneous now for the Bubble Titan. There will no longer be I hit the wrong button, the wrong combination for my super. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened in high-end PvP with our Titans. It's not their fault. It's just there's a limited amount of inputs on a controller.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. With Void 3.0, these two functions are separated, which means Ward of Dawn is now nearly instantly activated. In addition, it has been moved to the fastest super cooldown tier, making it much more available to the Titan need. It's much better as a reactionary defense tool. So as an example, if a hunter were to jump at you and cast Blade Barrage, the Titan can now pretty reliably activate Ward of Dawn before any enemy super lands and survive as a result.
Yes.
Just as before, Sentinel Shield will allow you to traverse the battlefield, bashing foes with the shield or tossing the shield as a melee attack. Thrown shields will damage opponents and apply Volatile if controlled demolition is equipped, while Shield Bash kills will grant a full overshield. There are 3 Titan aspects to choose from with Void 3.0. Controlled demolition. Hitting a target with a Void ability or volatile detonation will make them volatile. Bastion. This is the one I'm excited for. Casting Barricade generates overshield for yourself and nearby allies. Those bunkering behind the shield will regenerate overshield over time and extend the overshield's duration.
Ooh.
An offensive bulwark. While you have overshield or are inside the Ward of Dawn, grenades charge significantly faster and you have increased melee damage. You also gain an additional shield throw for your Sentinel Super Shield. This is awesome.
It is awesome.
This is very much taking a page out of the Stasis playbook where your abilities are meant to complement one another, and it's no surprise the Titan one is based around meleeing. Meleeing and being the literal shield for your fire team. I'm excited to see how this plays with the Titan exclusive glaive that shoots the mini bubbles of light out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited for here, I think. But Corey, you are the resident Titan. How are you feeling about these changes? You know, I'm a scrawny hunter. I don't have big shoulder pads.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
I'm
so excited. You have no idea how excited I am. The fact that I can pop Ward of Dawn and survive a hunter super. No, I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of good things here. Obviously the Sentinel shield is pretty much the same, it feels like, but everything else is just such a great change. You know, I'm excited to use the glaive and watch the bubbles of light pop out and be able to like use that to my advantage as a Sentinel, right? Because I mean that's my main class. Like as a Titan,
yeah.
Sentinel is my main class. Like if I'm going,
you always wear the helm of Saint 14 too.
Yeah, and I mean that's why. I mean that's the only helmet. It's the only helmet that looks cool, first of all, but it's also like it's the perfect helmet to go with the Ward of Dawn. And I'm so excited.
Right.
Oh.
Well, Corey, we're going to move on ever so briefly to the Hunter.
Let's do it.
Hunters prioritize movement and stealth in the heat of battle. Whether it's enjoying a few moments of tactical recalibration, an intense encounter by briefly vanishing after dodging attacks, or setting snares and traps to disorient and slow opponents, a fight with a hunter is always a study in agility, surprise, and deadly precision. In addition to the Spectral Blade Super, which is unchanged, I should add, it's one of the two super, that and Nova Work are not being changed at all. The Shadow Shot variants that hunters are accustomed to, Deadfall and Mobius Quiver, will still be found in Void 3.0, but there are some changes to be aware of. Mobius Quiver will now fire volleys of 3 arrows that will track targets and make them volatile if they are tethered. In addition, with Deadfall, the Void Anchors that are dropped after Shadow Shots will now pull enemies towards it when it impacts a surface or a target. The Snare Bomb melee ability will now weaken opponents, and in PvP, players caught in a Snare Bomb will have their HUD removed and an obscure effect applied for a short period of time. This is great because Hunter Smoke has been dog shit for as long as I can remember. It's been bad. Omnioculus is the thing that made it good again. It has not been very good otherwise.
There's something else that does that. What's the other thing that does that? Because I know, like, sometimes I get hit and, like, the screen gets fuzzy and my radar disappears. I think that might just be like an enemy effect from something, though, like a PvE effect.
There's an enemy effect that does it. The smoke that the wizards cast.
Yeah,
but the Hunter Smoke Bomb does do that to a much lesser degree than it sounds like they're describing here. That's just kind of a nuisance, and if you're a hunter, you can dodge out of it.
Okay.
But this sounds like these are going to also suppress, it sounds like, from what we talked about earlier,
right?
And with some of the mods that are coming. So that's exciting for me. Hunters will have 3 aspects to select from with Void 3.0. The Trapper's Ambush. Players activate Quick Fall to spend their melee charge and dive into the ground, creating a smoke cloud upon impact. Enemies caught in the cloud are weakened and allies become invisible. In addition, bombs upon attaching to surfaces or enemies cause nearby allies to become invisible. So we're keeping that function of the Snare Bomb. As it works now, you have to select, do you want to do a little bit of damage to enemies, or do you want to go invisible? The answer is literally always invisible right now. This sounds nice that you're going to get an option for how this is going to work. Vanishing Step. Dodging makes hunters invisible. And Stylish Executioner. Defeating a void debuffed target, weakened, suppressed, or volatile, grants invisibility and true sight. While invisible and after a Stylish Execution, your next melee attack weakens enemies. I have a feeling that Trapper's Ambush and Vanishing Step are going to be used a lot. An awful lot. I don't think Stylish Executioner is bad. I think that's one of those, like, you're going to have to use in combo with things. And there is a video up there that show off the Mobius Quiver, the Trapper's Ambush, and Stylish Executioner all used at the same time. And it looks really cool. This is a class I'm going to have to play around with a bit. Void Hunters has not been good for a long time, especially since Divinity came into the game. Pretty much our only purpose for Tether was taken away. And we occasionally got very powerful with things like Oppressive Darkness for like a season, and that was it. This seems to give us renewed focus on PvE damage. Like Void Hunters are now viable in PvE, and that's the biggest thing. Like for me, Deadfall doesn't do. It's not a radical change, but pulling the enemies towards the boss. For example, if you're playing Gambit and you shoot the giant Taken Ogre that spawns as your boss, it will pull the enemies around it into it. So maybe that pulls in Primevals. Maybe that just pulls in the little guys. You start chaining volatile attacks, though, and boom, 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 everything's going to be blowing up and taking extra damage. You chuck a grenade, you chuck a Void Grenade onto there, and Void Grenades now automatically apply Oppressive Darkness if you have that aspect or that fragment equipped. That's huge. That's huge. There are so many combos you can do here, and everything is meant to synergize together. I encourage everyone, if you have not done it yet, I know John and I talked about it a few weeks ago. Seriously, go look at Elemental Well mods. Buy all the ones you don't have if you're able to buy them. Because as we shift more into your weapons are going to be more synergized with what you're doing with your subclass, those are going to become more and more important. Graviton Lance and Graviton Forfeit are going to be a nightmare with this Hunter class, and I can't wait to see how quick it takes for them to nerf Graviton Forfeit for PvP.
Right.
I guarantee you by the first Trials weekend, it's going to be nerfed.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. You basically could stay invisible forever if you do it right, because that grants increased invisibility, and there's so many different abilities that will make you and your teammates invisible that I just can't see them letting that stand. I can't wait. It's another year of complaining about Hunter dive attacks. But let's move on to the last class, our favorite dress wearers, the Warlocks.
Yes.
When they aren't nose deep in ancient texts, Warlocks are floating across the battlefield, healing allies and creating havoc amongst their foes. The Nova Warp Super lets Warlocks quickly teleport from one spot to the next, and players can choose to let it loose with a deadly Void Eruption. With the Vortex Super enhancement, a player's Nova Bomb will now draw enemies into the Singularity it creates, damaging them once inside. And casting a Nova Bomb with Cataclysm will cause it to travel across the battlefield and seek out enemies. Detonations will shatter into smaller Seeker projectiles, and shooting the Nova Bomb will cause it to detonate early. So that can be, I feel like Nova Bomb can be used really strategically here for a couple different reasons. I'm excited to see how much damage that Vortex does if you chuck it at an enemy boss. Say you throw it at Atheon, will it sit there and just keep doing damage over time along with, like, the Hunter Tornado? Because if so, man, you have that, you throw a Divinity on it, and then you're shooting it with all your heavies. That could be a really potent combo right there.
Right, yeah.
So I'm excited to see how Vortex works. Now, Vortex is the one I'm most excited for here. The Warlock melee Pocket Singularity fires an unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it nears enemies, pushing them away from the blast and making them volatile. Destiny designer Mike Humboldt expects this melee will find particular use in the Crucible. We do a lot of testing in PvP, and knocking someone who's trying to shotgun rush you off the map with Pocket Singularity is always a good time. The Warlocks will have 3 new aspects to wield, including Chaos Accelerant. Hold down the grenade button to overcharge your Vortex, Axion Bolt, Scatter, and Magnetic Grenades. Magnetic Grenades overcharge into handheld supernovas. Feed the Void. Defeat an enemy with a Void ability to activate Devour. Of course, we covered Devour earlier. That is a favorite of Void Locks who run those abilities. This is probably the one I'm most excited for of all 3 classes. This is going to get me to play my Warlock. This one aspect alone. Child of the Old Gods. Cast your Rift to summon a Void Soul. When you damage an enemy with your weapon, your Void Soul will launch itself towards them and detonate nearby, attaching draining tendrils which deal damage and weaken the target. When your Void Soul deals damage, it restores either melee and grenade energy if you are running Healing Rift, or health if you are running Empowering Rift, to back to you. Defeating an enemy who is being drained grants Rift energy. Samuel Dunn, who is on DCP tonight, DCP Fire in Line. Everybody go check that out. It's an interview with him, Kevin Yanes, and of course it's hosted by Fallout Plays. Calls Child of the Old Gods aspect a passion project for him, something the team worked on for quite a while to get right. I'm a Warlock main at heart, and I really love summoning little friends like Arc Soul and Bleak Watcher to do my bidding. So I wanted to make sure Void Soul felt like a black hole, but with a little personality to it. To complete the new aspects, Void 3.0 also introduces a number of new fragments. Here's a look at a few of the fragments to come. We only get a preview of 4 of them, and if it's anything like Stasis, there's going to be probably about 11 or 12 of these suckers.
Yeah.
Echo of Expulsion. Void ability kills cause enemies to explode. Grants intellect bonus. Echo of Provision. Damaging enemies with grenades grants melee energy with a strength penalty. Echo of Domineering. After suppressing a target, gain greatly increased mobility for a short duration, and your equipped weapon is reloaded from reserves. Discipline bonus. Echo of Undermining. Void grenades weaken enemies. That is the Oppressive Darkness. Oppressive Darkness we were talking about. Also has a discipline penalty. I am so excited to see how Echo of Undermining works a lot. I'm already thinking of plays for that. Echo of Domineering is going to be a nightmare with Hunters having that equipped and shotguns in the Crucible.
Great.
Yep. So just so you guys know, Crucible will be completely unplayable from now on. Not that it was playable to begin with, but it's going to be even worse now. Another significant change for Void 3.0 is all subclasses will have access to all Void grenade types in the game. As a Hunter, you'll be able to run with Suppressor or Magnetic grenades instead of choosing between Void Spike, Void Wall, or Vortex. In addition, some grenades will see upgrades, such as the Lingering Field created by Vortex grenades will now suck enemies into it. That is going to be incredible. Very excited for that. Players who have played Destiny before the Witch Queen will have access to all aspects and most fragments with the launch of the Witch Queen. Several fragments will become available after the world first raid completion. New Destiny 2 players will earn their aspects and fragments as part of the New Light experience. So I am very, 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 very excited for this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
All this sounds amazing. This is going to be the basis of all the classes. They talked in the ViDoc a little bit about how what their philosophy was behind Void, and it was clear Void needed the most love, I think, across the game for all types.
Yeah,
I would argue Arc is a pretty damn close second.
For Titans, I would argue that Arc is first. For Titans,
I mean, I would argue for Hunters, Arc is I don't know, but I think Void also has probably the most utility of any of those classes based on the existing super, because you have Nova Bomb, you have Bubble/Shield, and you have Mobius and Deadfall for Hunters.
Right.
No Hunter is running in the hardcore PvE activities running Void Knives. That's very much a Crucible thing. Just like Stormcallers aren't really running in the high-end PvE. They're staying in the Crucible.
Right.
I want to see some of this stuff brought to more relevance, and I think that's a lot of what they're doing with these 3.0 updates. Our friend A1 Johnny just messaged me, and he says... confirmation, Tether activates much more quickly than it does in the game currently, and applies the same debuff. It applies the debuff the second it hits, so you don't have to wait for the animation to finish to pull someone out of their super. Amazing. You love to see it.
It's awesome.
Because right now, if you shoot it, you still have to hit the ground before it activates.
Right.
For Deadfall, that's really, really, really aggravating. There is a much simpler way to look at a lot of this in the TWAB today, in the TWAB breakdown. And I would say that's the majority of the TWAB today, frankly, is Void 3.0. But if you had any questions, there you go. And it does sound like Sentinel Shield and Ward of Dawn are completely uncoupled from each other now. Like they're going to be their own individual supers you have to select, which is exciting to think about. I like that a lot. I'm looking through here, making sure there's nothing else that we need to cover with those specific abilities. All new. So I do want to, what about New Lights? We already covered, they're going to acquire their stuff during New Light campaign. During the Schism mission, players will acquire a new class called Learning Light that teaches them more about their subclass abilities. Aspects and fragments can be unlocked for New Lights by visiting Ikora Ray in the tower. In addition, new characters will also have their starting subclass experience changed. Not only will new Hunters and Titans be starting with Void instead of Solar or Arc, all classes will now start with the Void subclass abilities intended to be more friendly and appealing to new players. And then there's a preview of what those are going to look like here. For anybody who's curious. And it does confirm Sentinel Shield is its own super ability this time. But we got one other giant chunk of news in this Schwab. Then we got some. We got fun stuff towards the end. A little bit of fun stuff. Let's talk about Legendary Campaign. This has been a question of ours since it got announced. What exactly is going to make it legendary? You just going to slap a couple modifiers on it and call it a day? Well, we don't exactly know what the modifiers look like, but we do have a better idea of what this experience is going to be like, and they've been kind of mum on some of it.
Yeah.
What are the main rewards of completing missions at Legendary difficulty? Double chest rewards, offering 1 to 3 extra chests per mission. Each chest will give you Whirlpool gear, XP, upgrade modules, and Glimmer.
Ooh.
Legendary players will be able to earn Throne World armor and unlocks at a faster rate. Basically, higher the risk, higher the reward, especially when getting to the new power level soft cap in the Witch Queen. This is a baller piece of art that is going to be the Legendary Select screen, by the way.
What, this one
with
underneath?
The 3... Yes, that is confirmed to be the one that we see in-game when you select the Legendary version of a campaign mission. That is the art you will get.
That's awesome. I love it.
Also,
the thumbnail for
very
this
cool.
episode.
Hey, thanks for that one, Bungie. Thanks for giving it to us without any writing on it. We really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any unique rewards for completing the story on Legendary difficulty? Completing every mission on Legendary will reward players with the following. A new emblem exclusive to those who completed at Legendary difficulty. A triumph required for the newest title for Savathun's Throne World. A set of gear 20 above the soft cap at 1520 power level. And that is confirmed to be a full set of armor and 3 weapons, 1 for each slot, guaranteed. 8 upgrade modules. New Witch Queen exotic armor that is typically reserved for PED Lost Sector drops. And exclusive Bungie rewards. More on that in the future. I suspect we'll learn about that either next Thursday or Tuesday when the game actually launches.
Yeah.
Some players have been asking, is this a difficulty to be feared? How challenging is it? To set difficulty expectations, the Legendary campaign is designed to be harder than a Legend Nightfall, though easier than a solo dungeon or running a Grandmaster Nightfall. So I would suspect somewhere like on a lower level Master Nightfall, probably. So I don't want to give anybody any false expectations, but probably what something like the Devil's Lair feels like on Master. Yeah. Maybe like the Hollowed Lair. Maybe one that's not like hard, but definitely requires some thinking is probably what you can expect. So maybe what the Hollowed Lair feels like on Master is probably like a benchmark I'm setting for myself on how these are going to feel.
Right.
Enemies are more difficult and more aggressive. They also have higher damage resistance, more of a challenge to stagger, and shields are stronger to unmatched damage types. The challenge of Legendary also comes from switching up enemy interactions and infiltration, like swapping out an elite for a boss or having an influx of more red bar foes. And they have confirmed this will scale. If you want to go at this alone, you can go at it alone, and you're going to have a different experience. They're going to take some of the enemies away, and they're not going to make them as powerful, but it's still going to be just as challenging because you're soloing this.
Right. That's cool. That's
will
cool.
Feel like soloing a dungeon, I feel.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's cool, but I really like what they say here. Can I over-level this content? Each mission will cap your power similar to raid contest mode so that all Guardians have an even playing field to avoid feeling like every step is a grind. The mission launch screen will have a skull displaying each mission's max effective power. If you are underleveled, be prepared for a bit of a tough fight. So basically all of us going in on day one, going straight for Legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be in the trenches with you. We are starting. The first mission is confirmed to have a starting light level on Legendary at 1360, and it will get worse from there.
Yeah.
You will catch me stacking bounties next week and saving up paracausal halls from Xur to better try and survive this. But having multiple chests throughout a mission, because they've said chests will not just come from the end now. You will get them from encounters throughout the missions. If you fight like a mini boss partway through or something, you'll get a chest, and so you can level up during the missions. I'll be saving a few paracausal halls to be popping and burning through the upgrade modules that I've procured already. The mighty are forged in battle, but is it that way for solo players? We've had a lot of aspirational content, but Legendary gives us a chance to give solo players more equal footing with those that opt into playing with a fire team. Enemy damage and health scales to match your fire team, though it won't be 1-to-1 because triple the boss health is not fun. Even still, it will be enough to keep even a veteran trio on their ornamented toes. We also didn't want to trivialize darkness encounters compared to solo play, so you're limited to 1 revive per player for each darkness zone and a shared timer of 40 seconds before an automatic wipe happens. We've said it time and time again, but you've got to stay close to your friends and be ready and able to pick them up when they fall. Will players be able to tone things down if Legendary is too much for their playthrough? The folks that find the difficulty of Legendary too overwhelming at first, there is an option. You can leave the mission and relaunch it through the classic Destiny settings. Some will want to focus more on the story than on sweat for that first run, and that's totally fine. We want to support that. For those who want more of a challenge later, we've added nodes to replay any Witch Queen campaign mission on Classic or Legendary anytime after you've beaten the mission once, of course. It basically sounds like if you plan on doing the raid day one and you don't want to have just an absolutely atrocious grind in front of you, suck it up and do it on Legendary before that first weekly reset is over.
Right.
Myself and John have 2 different strategies to approach this. I'll be diving straight into the Legendary campaign with Nerd Generalist and Colonel Panic right off the bat. If it proves to be too difficult, we're going to go do some seasonal stuff. We're going to run some strikes, do some Crucible, and then we're going to come back, right? Because you have a level that you can get up to. And, hey, there's no shame. If you got to dip out, grind a tiny bit, and then come back, cool. Maybe I'll just finish out the campaign on normal at that point so I don't get spoiled and work on that throughout the week. But this much is clear. If you want to have optimal raid prep, you're going to want to get that 1520 armor as soon as possible.
Right.
I would prefer to like it before I hit any of my pinnacle gear. So before I'm getting any of my weekly strike one, before I'm getting my weekly Crucible engram to drop, I want to grind out and finish this campaign even if it kills me. Even if I got an LFG for it, I plan on getting this done. Because that 1520 boost is going to be the biggest jump you'll ever get. And then all your pinnacle rewards stack on top of that. Your paracausal halls will stack on that. Your dares drops, things like that will all stack. And that's what you're going to want. for power leveling. If you plan to do the raid day one, if you don't plan to raid weekend one, hell, I would say take it at your own pace. But if you want to do raid day one, this is the way you're going to do it without killing yourself.
Right.
So, and it does offer a nice path, as John was noting earlier to me. It offers a nice path for those of us who just don't want to go through this power grind again for like a 6th expansion in a row. It lets us skip that because we're willing to endure a harder campaign in exchange. So we will see how that goes. Corey, do you have anything else to add on Legendary campaign? Will your first run be normal or Legendary?
I mean, my first one will probably be normal just because I want to see the campaign and not like bang my head against the wall, you know, because like a lot of times when I try to do a campaign of something on like Halo, for example, on Legendary, I don't enjoy the game because I'm too busy like banging my head against the wall. But like I will definitely, after that first run of the campaign, I'll definitely go back and do Legendary because I want that stuff and I would like to do the raid at some point.
Yeah,